Terror. Drama on Flight 472. The battle to save a baby elephant. And the rise and fall of Commander Ken. Hello and welcome to Great Escapes, the show featuring people who have been plunged into all manner of disasters. And still managed to come up smiling. More about this little torture chamber in a minute. But first, one of those amazing great escapes that can only happen on the racetrack. Though there are times when it's even more dangerous to be outside the car than in. It's one of the world's most notorious races. America's ARCA 200 at the Daytona Raceway in Florida. It's fast, it's furious, and it's completely insane. One car somersaults out of control, setting off a chain reaction, taking out 9 others. But the worst is still to come. Look out, look out. The accident happens in a split second. Paramedic Mike Staley is hit while treating an injured driver and then run over. Ambulances race to the scene, desperate to help their stricken colleague. The driver he was treating collapses on the grass in shock. Once Mike is stabilised, a helicopter arrives to take him to intensive care. He remembers every sickening detail.
I remember telling the driver to keep his seatbelt and his helmet on. He wanted to take it off, but I'm happy that he didn't when the accident happened. I was conscious and alert from the first medic coming to me. I remember being put in the helicopter and don't remember the landing.
Mike's in a bad way. He has 2 broken legs, a broken arm and a broken nose. And his body's covered in cuts and bruises, but he survives. Incredibly, just 2 months later, he's back on his feet.
I have a strong will to live. I was in my best physical conditioning that I've ever been in when the accident occurred. That with the thoughts and prayers of the community and my friends and family, I think have really been able to bring me through this quite well.
Lucky man. Now, in case you are wondering what this is, it's a simulator for a helicopter cockpit, and it's used to teach aircrew how to survive a crash landing into water. Pilots are obviously trained to deal with a whole range of emergencies, but this next great escape features a chopper pilot who has to face not 1, but 2 horrifying incidents in the space of a few seconds. It's a routine job. The helicopter's removing a giant air conditioning unit from a block of flats. Suddenly, the tail rotor fails. The chopper starts swaying. As the unit crashes to the ground, the helicopter spins out of control. Onlookers watch in horror. Everybody's convinced the pilot must be dead. But Ben Moore is very much alive. What's more, his only injuries are a few minor cuts and bruises. Ben knew there was a problem and headed for the area he'd planned for just such an emergency. His main concern was to avoid the crowd.
Well, I knew I was in serious trouble when my radio man called up to me and told me that my tail rotor had stopped turning. And then when the nose started to swing around to the right, that really confirmed it. Now, the prime concern at that point was to make sure that I made it to the emergency landing area and that no one got hurt. Did all right until the last 50 feet, and then I ran out of RPM and she nosed over, and what I said was to myself was, this is it. As, well, I either survive it or I don't. I don't think I had enough time to be frightened for my own life. And every time I see that helicopter hit, I think, gee, that guy died. And then I think, no, that was me.
It's an air show in Northern Ireland, and the star, in his homemade autogyro, is 82-year-old RAF veteran Wing Commander Ken Wallace. If it looks familiar, that's because the tiny aircraft was flown by James Bond in the movie You Only Live Twice. Ken's about to stage a spectacular 007 stunt show. Suddenly, the engine cuts out. There's no sign of Ken. An official races to the scene. Then, in true James Bond style, the hero emerges, shaken and stirred. He's fine, but his aircraft and his pride are severely dented. Look closely, you can see how the rear propeller splutters and dies. The autogyro hits the ground at frightening speed. And in the cockpit, Ken is violently tossed around before coming to rest upside down. The machine stood up well to the impact, but not as well as Ken.
I've had greater escapes during the war. When the engine cut out, I knew that there was nothing I could do other than land it downwind, because I was far too low to turn into wind. But with the tailwind, of course, it touched down at far higher speed in rough ground than one would normally hope to get away with. And she promptly did a number of somersaults. But luckily, the structure is strong enough to give protection to the pilot. So it was a bit embarrassing, very annoying. But the aircraft was flying again within a month, and she didn't miss any of her appointments.
Our next story started out as a routine journey to work for a teenage driver. There was an accident, and what followed turned out to be one of the most bizarre cases traffic cops in Houston, Texas had ever seen. Driver Wendy McRae has ended up trapped underneath a huge concrete pipe. It landed on top of her when she was thrown out of the car after smashing into it. All that's visible are her hands. Baffled rescuers don't know where to start, but they need to act fast. Wendy keeps drifting in and out of consciousness. Rescuer Michael Cockrell climbs inside the pipe to give her support. Time is running out. She can't hold on much longer.
Just tried to comfort her and let her know that she was going to be fine, and we were going to get her out.
Worried medics constantly check her condition. After being trapped in the cold and rain for 40 minutes now, she's suffering from hypothermia. Airbags are inflated underneath the pipe. As it's lifted up, rescuers get their first glimpse of Wendy. She's terrified and in severe pain. Another 30 minutes of torture, then Wendy's out. The cold has frozen her outstretched arms in position. It's a bizarre sight as she's rushed off to hospital. But against all the odds, Wendy survives the ordeal. She has a broken arm, wrist and ankle, but rescuers say she's a lucky girl.
Most people aren't that lucky. I guess you could say she won the lotto that day.
Now to what really is a nightmare situation. Fire is raging through a hotel and the fire exits are locked. Guests are trapped on the upper floors and getting to them is almost impossible. The blaze has turned this hotel in Thailand into a death trap. Thick, choking smoke billows out of almost every window. Trapped on the 16th floor is American tourist Rochelle Salmi and her 7-year-old daughter, Sana. They can hardly breathe. The poisonous smoke is swallowing them up. In desperation, Rochelle grabs her mobile phone and calls for help. The call alerts rescuers, and with time running out, help finally arrives. They drop a rope from the roof. The safety harness is flimsy. The young Sana has no choice but to risk it. Carefully, they pull the terrified little girl up. Sana makes it. Her mother must now save herself. The room's getting hotter by the second. There's no time to put the harness on properly. She has to leap for her life and hope she can hold on. Rochelle's safely up as well. But it's a holiday experience that will haunt them forever.
The smoke conditions in the room was thick and black and acrid and burning. We didn't really know what to do with the rope, but we did know that that rope was our way out. It was that horrible moment, and I just actually just screamed out the window. I just raged, with rage, because I just thought, this is not how it's supposed to end.
Sadly, not everyone survived the tragedy. But for a simple phone call, Rochelle and Sana would almost certainly have perished too. A petrol tanker carrying more than 600 gallons of fuel has exploded after crashing with a dust cart. Flames soar hundreds of feet into the air. The temperature is over 2,000 degrees centigrade. The inferno is threatening nearby apartments and setting fire to cars. There's a major scare as burning fuel gets into the drains and flares up. Fuel's leaked into the canal. Even the water bursts into flames.
We want to get folks out of this area, okay? That's right here, ma'am, the old fire station. Paramedic office, come right on over
They have to evacuate elderly residents from the whole area. It's a high-risk move, but fireman Dave DeLosier climbs on board the tanker to douse it with foam. It's a time bomb and could go up any second. Suddenly, the fire turns on Dave. Desperate to escape, he jumps down, straight into the tank of burning fuel.
And I heard it churning and gurgling down there in the tank. I mean, it's just like a pressure cooker. It was something that had to go. And I was just getting ready to get off of there when it blew back on me, and it just engulfed me in flames for a few seconds. And I was just looking for a place to jump. And that's when I jumped into the tank.
Luckily, Dave escapes with just minor burns.
At the time, I was just in a lot of pain. I was in a lot of pain because of the heat, the hot gasoline that had filled up my clothes.
4 hours on and the blaze is finally out. Fire crews take a well-earned break and reflect on the survival of one of their bravest.
I know I was very fortunate. I was very lucky.
Still to come on Great Escapes. High drama on the cliff face. How the herding instinct saved a baby elephant. And the end of a knife-edge ordeal. Don't go away. Welcome back to every air passenger's worst nightmare. It's 4 AM at Athens airport and a hijacker is holding an air hostess hostage at knife point. He demands to talk to the cameras.
And the opposition parties.
Behind the reporter, posing as a journalist, is an undercover cop.
Like when they do demonstration and everything.
The hijacker demands the release of political prisoners in Ethiopia.
The government says or believes that there is a democracy in Ethiopia. There is no democracy in Ethiopia.
The knife is held against the hostage's throat the whole time.
And everything. But
the Greek cop must choose his moment very carefully.
All Amaras or
the hijacker's pinned to the ground. It's a textbook rescue.
You know, the thing is...
The captain gets out of the way, and the policeman dives in. He goes straight for the knife. The hijacker resists, but he's quickly overpowered by sheer weight of numbers. All 114 passengers step safely off the plane. After 2 hours at the mercy of the hijacker, Sophia Mastalou, who's pregnant, talks to the media. Handcuffed, the hijacker is taken off to court, facing a long stretch in jail. Viewed again, the policeman's timing in ending the drama of Flight 472 had to be perfect, and it was. The final irony was the hijacker's weapon, the knife that came with his in-flight meal. In California, firefighters have their own helicopter rescue service. It's often called out to mountainous regions where the terrain makes road travel impossible. Here's a case in point. 3 teenagers are trapped on a fragile cliff face. There's no way up and a very long drop down. The 3 boys cling on for their lives. All that's between them and a 120-foot fall is the crumbling cliff face. It could give way any second. The rescue helicopter can't get any closer, or 100-mile-an-hour winds from its rotors could easily blow them off.
You know, when they're hanging on like that, if you come in and you just barely tap them, you're going to knock them off the cliff.
Winchman Jeff Barry is almost there. He reaches out for the first of them, but it all goes dramatically wrong. With the youngster not properly strapped in, the ledge gives way.
Reaching down and just grabbing his foot and then trying to pull him back in.
I try to stay as calm as I could that they've fallen, but they're still on the hook.
Jeff gives the okay, and they're hauled to safety. Next, they winch up the others. Back on solid ground, they're unhurt and overcome with relief, and very grateful for the skill of their rescuers.
I was talking to him actually on the way up, asking him if everything's okay, and he said yes. And I said, that was a close one there, you know, and he just said, thank you.
Perth, Australia, and a spectacular high dive. Duncan Harris gets it all wrong. The impact is fierce and he's knocked unconscious. First in to help is off-duty policeman Andrew Grano. Duncan's limp body is dragged to a rescue boat.
I could see him sort of waving his arm round. He was moving, he was heading down, and I just pulled him up to the surface.
They think he may have broken his back. The crowd helped lift him into an ambulance. But after a night in intensive care, incredibly, next morning he's fine.
Andrew, it's Duncan Harris here. Last night you pulled me out of Fisherman's Wharf, and I'd just like to say thank you very much.
Andrew plays down his role as hero.
Better now than it was last night.
It's just pure luck that I found him. So I don't think it's heroic. It's just a matter of being able to do what you can. You know, it's just a natural thing to go in and help somebody.
Back home, Duncan explains what went wrong.
Wow. That hurt. At a critical point in my dive, I was blinded by a particular spotlight, and I lost my visual of the water and took quite an impact on the water. As I slowly lost consciousness, then I was just sort of hoping that very shortly someone was going to come in and pull me out. It's an exciting way to earn a living, and it's a lot of fun, and I guess that's why we do it.
I always knew elephants must be intelligent animals because they never forget. After seeing this next amazing footage, nobody can doubt just how clever they are. Watch closely. It's happy hour at the watering hole, but in the rush, a baby elephant falls in. He's sinking fast. The more he struggles in the thick mud, the more he gets bogged down. The elders sound the alarm. Then an incredible sight. As if by some pre-arranged plan, the elephant set to work to get him out. The mud is like quicksand. The baby's sinking fast and in danger of drowning in it. While some frantically dig with their trunks and tusks, others pile up mud to build a makeshift ramp. They fight to keep the baby's head up out of the mud. All the hard work pays off. Junior is finally out of danger. It's lesson number 1 in his young life. Let's hope he never forgets it. Fantastic teamwork there. Elephants have just gone up in my estimation. I'll be back with more unforgettable Great Escapes same time next week. Until then, bye-bye.
Next tonight, we delve deep under the surface of one of the world's most lucrative industries. That's vice, the sex trade.